After our introduction to the neoclassical approach, we can start to think about growth theory. This is an important macroeconomic topic that must be understood by any serious student of development. But it will force us to return to thinking about income. That is, we will move away from a more holistic view of development, that development is a multi-dimensional concept. As we think about the components or sources of growth, we should realize up front that our goal is to eventually understand the Solow growth model. When thinking about the sources of growth, our approach is neoclassical, and the economic model we will use is the Production Possibilities Frontier, PPF. This model, or some version of it, forms the basis of several of our previous models of growth and development, in particular the Harrod-Domar model and the Lewis two-sector model. Okay, so all countries face scarcity because they have limited resources. This is why countries have to make choices. And presumably, they make these choices in order to get as much development out of their scarce resources as possible. The model used to discuss these ideas is the Production Possibilities Frontier, which you probably remember from a Principles of Economics course. The PPF shows what an economy can produce given its available resources and technology. The model allows us to carefully think about how we employ resources and efficiency. More importantly, the model forces us to recognize the concept of trade-offs, the notion that any choice comes with a cost, an opportunity cost, and that we should consider these trade-offs before we make any decision. Finally, and most importantly for our considerations, the PPF model clearly shows what is needed for economic growth to occur. As I already mentioned, the PPF shows how much output can be produced given resources and technology. This means that in order to have economic growth, a country must either increase the number of resources, that is, add more capital, labor, or materials, or improve its technology. If we focus only on capital and labor as our factors of production, then there are only three sources of economic growth. 1. Capital accumulation. Increase machines or increase the level of education and health. 2. Population growth. Increase the labor force. Or 3. Technological progress. Being able to produce more output from the same inputs. Of course, as you remember, Rostow, Harrod-Domar, and Lewis all are based on capital accumulation. That is, they explain growth and development through the accumulation of capital. All the models argued that capital accumulation is the result of saving and investment or reinvestment of profit. In short, in order to have more capital, we must invest. And in order to invest, we must save. That is, we have to give up current consumption. Sadly, we must here conclude that in order to consume more in the future, we must consume less today. There are several different categories of capital. Some contribute directly to an economy's ability to produce goods and services, like more machines or more factories, but also more education and better health. Other forms of capital contribute indirectly to an economy's ability to produce goods and services, like roads and other types of infrastructure, but also schools and hospitals. That is, schools and hospitals do not produce either software, candy, or cars, but they do produce smart and healthy people who in turn can produce software, candy, and cars. In terms of population growth, this is a tricky topic. Population growth is, of course, important because it will eventually translate into a greater labor force, which will lead to more output. However, since we are usually interested in improving the standard of living, that is output per person, we must also realize that more people also mean that whatever is produced must be shared among a greater number of people. This turns out to be extremely important and will be related to the concept of diminishing marginal returns. Anyway, if we have more capital or more people, then the country will be able to produce more goods. That is, in the PPF model, the economy's production possibilities will shift out. Given that investment in capital, whether physical capital like machines or human capital like education and healthcare, will increase output without increasing the number of mouths that need to be fed, we can see why economics have tended to focus on capital accumulation. In fact, some theories have even argued that we should reduce population growth. Check out Thomas Malthus. However, it turns out that there is at least one way to increase output without increasing either capital or labor. This magic bullet is, of course, technology. By improving technology, and we view technology very broadly, ranging from innovative computers, advanced machines, to better management techniques. Anyway, technological progress is any new knowledge that makes the existing physical and human capital and number of workers more productive. Any knowledge that allows an economy to get more output using the same amount of inputs. There are, however, three different types of technological progress. First, neutral technological progress. This is technological progress that allows an economy to increase output of all goods proportionately. That is, output of all goods increased by the same percentage, say 10%. Some possible examples for neutral technological progress are better management techniques or improved division of labor. But neutral technological progress is both unusual and unlikely. A second one is labor-saving technological progress. Technological progress that makes workers more productive. It will take fewer workers to produce the same amount of output. This is the most common form of technological progress. But sometimes this type of progress might not be appropriate. For example, consider a country that has a lot of unemployed workers. In this situation, technology that leads to a need for fewer workers might not be appropriate. And the third one is capital-saving technological progress. Technological progress that makes the existing capital stock more productive. In this case, it would take fewer machines to produce the same amount of output, or the same number of machines are able to produce a greater amount of output, holding the number of workers the same. Well, there we have it. According to the neoclassical components of growth model, there are only two ways to grow. Either increase the number of resources or improve technology. Since an increase in labor or population may reduce per capita income, the focus tends to be on capital accumulation. However, capital accumulation is also not free, since the only way to increase capital, whether physical capital or human capital, is to invest. And when we invest, we always have to reduce current consumption. That is, economic growth is always a choice between consumption today versus consumption in the future. In particular, in order to consume more in the future, we have to consume less today. Is that a choice that you are willing to make?